The Sage ERP Accpac multi-currency module allows you to capitalize on the global economy, giving you the power to expand your business beyond your country's borders. Important for multinational operations, Sage ERP Accpac conforms to GAAP as well as the new International Financial Reporting Standards, also known as IFRS. Before you set up a multi-currency database in Sage ERP Accpac, it's important that you understand the options available to you and how they'll affect processing of transactions. In this tutorial, we'll walk you through the steps and options, but importantly, you should consult with your accountant before setting up multi-currency on your system. So now let's jump right in and get started. To begin, we'll go to Common Services and open the company profile and go to the Options tab. Here you'll find the switch that enables multi-currency. A note of caution: once you turn on multi-currency and hit Save, it cannot be turned off. So now let's check the multi-currency switch and notice that it enables a set of related fields. Let's start with the functional currency, which may also be referred to as your home or reporting currency. Notice that the field is grayed out. That's because it was required that we set our functional currency at the time this company database was created, and once it's set, it can't be changed. Also, if you have multiple company databases in your Sage Accpac system, they don't all have to be multi-currency. Further, each company database can have a different functional currency. Now moving on, we'll set a default rate type. The default rate type is used for converting source currency transactions or revaluation amounts to your functional currency. You can create as many rate types as you need. If your rate type isn't listed here, you'll need to add it using the currency rate type form that we'll look at shortly. For this demonstration, we'll choose SP for spot rate. Importantly, if you do create a new rate type, remember to revisit this default setting and update it with the new one you've created. The next step is to choose your gain or loss method. The first option, realized and unrealized gain/loss, is usually associated with US GAAP accounting. This method reports unrealized and realized gains and losses in separate general ledger accounts. It's generally used when unrealized gains and losses are reported on your balance sheet. The second option, recognized gain/loss, is usually associated with Canadian GAAP accounting and the International Financial Reporting Standards that have been adopted in many countries. This option reports all gains and losses that occur on both settled and non-settled transactions in a single general ledger account. It's generally used where accounting standards require that gains and losses be recognized and reported on your income statement. Before choosing an option, you should discuss the reporting of gains and losses with your accountant to determine which option is appropriate for your company. Importantly, you can change from the realized and unrealized option to the recognized option, but not vice versa. We'll leave this set to realized and unrealized gain/loss. Finally, if you're a European Monetary Union member and you want to print your financials in both your former national currency and the euro currency, then you would enable the euro option. This option is not typically used anymore. It was implemented when countries were joining the European Union. The option remains for any countries that may join the European Union in the future. Again, when we save our company profile, we won't be able to reverse the multi-currency setting for this company database. So now let's save and close the form. The next step is to set up our currencies, and to do this, we'll click the currency icon. Let's begin with currency codes. Opening the Finder, we can see that Sage provides a long list of currencies with the multi-currency module. If the currency you need isn't on the list, then you can easily add it to the system. So let's suppose that we need the South Korean won, but it's not included here. So let's close the Finder and go ahead and add it. We'll start by entering the currency code, which for the won is KRW. Moving to description, we'll type South Korean won. Next, we'll enter the symbol. For the won, the number of decimal places is 0, and for symbol position, we'll select before without space, and the thousands separator will be a comma, and for decimal separator, we'll choose period, and for negative display, we'll select brackets. Now we'll click Add and close the screen. Now let's look at currency rate types. We'll click the Finder, and here we can see the rate types provided with the system. Importantly, you can add others that apply to your business. So let's close the Finder and add a new one for end of period. We'll start by entering the code, which will be EP. And for the description, end of period. Now we'll click Add and close the screen. Next, we'll move to currency rates, and the currency conversions take place based on the data entered here. We'll start with the currency that we're converting to, which in our case is USD for US dollars. Now we'll choose the rate type, and let's use the one we just created, end of period. Note that if you need more than one rate type, you'll need to perform these steps for each one. Moving to description, let's enter end of period table. Next, we need to choose our date matching. Here we're telling the system which exchange rate date to use relative to the transaction date for source currency transactions. You can choose to use an exchange rate that exactly matches or one that is earlier or later than the transaction date. For example, suppose our match date is set to earlier, and we have spot rates that were entered for a source currency on January 1st and January 20th. A transaction dated January 14th using our earlier setting would be valued at the January 1st spot rate. Note that date matching is used only when transactions are being converted. We'll select earlier. The next setting, rate operation, tells the system how the source currency transaction is converted to the functional currency equivalent. For example, if for every US dollar you received $1.10 in Canadian dollars, the rate would be multiplied by 1.1, or optionally, you could divide by 0.9. We'll select Multiply. Now we're ready to enter the actual rates into the table. These rates can be entered manually or imported using the system's import-export functions. Entry of the rates can also be automated through programming to gather the data off official currency websites and import this rate information into the system without manual intervention. For demonstration purposes, let's manually enter a rate. For the from currency, we'll enter CAD for Canadian dollars, and the system has defaulted the current date, which for our sample data is June 30th, 2020, and we'll use this as our rate date. For the rate, we'll enter 1.1, recalling that we selected multiply for the rate operation. Moving to spread, spread is the maximum amount that the rate entered for a transaction can differ from the rate entered in the currency table. The system uses the spread to check that a reasonable rate has been entered. For this example, we'll leave the spread as 0. Now let's click Save. Let's quickly take a look at the spot rate table, and we'll open the Finder, and we'll reposition it inside our window, and now we'll select Spot Rate. And by scrolling through the table, you can see that over time, the rates may represent a considerable number of entries. Now we'll close this form, and finally, let's discuss euro conversion. This feature is rarely used anymore, and again, the function remains for countries that may join the European Union in the future. So to recap, Sage ERP Accpac is a full-featured multi-currency accounting system. Before a company can be used in a multi-currency environment, currency codes, currency rate types, and currency rates must be set up in the system. Once these key components are configured, you can begin to set up the various submodules where you plan to have multi-currency transactions. We'll address these submodule multi-currency setup options in future videos. Give us a call if you need assistance with this or any other feature in your Sage Accpac system. Well, that's it for this tutorial. Bye for now.